Tired of family misunderstandings, I chose to vanish. Will they regret it when I'm gone? I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was suffocating, thick with tension and unspoken words. My heart raced as I stood there, tears streaming down my cheeks, my hands trembling at my sides. The silence screamed louder than any argument ever could. That moment, I felt invisible. I was surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. The laughter of my family echoed in the background, but it felt distant and hollow. Their smiles were masks, hiding confusion and anger I couldn't understand. I loved them. I really did. But love didn't seem to matter when misunderstandings piled up like broken glass, sharp and painful. I looked at my younger sister, her wide eyes filled with questions she couldn't voice. We used to be inseparable, but there was a rift now, an invisible wall built from silent accusations and hurtful words. My parents were no better. Their constant arguments twisted in my gut like a knife, each fight cutting deeper into our already frayed bonds. I remembered the day Dad slammed the door, the sound echoing through the house like an ominous bell. Mom's tears were never ending, her trembling hands clutching at the table as if it could anchor her in this storm. I wanted to scream, to shake them, to make them see how much pain this was causing all of us. But instead I bottled it up, letting it fester inside me. The images haunted me. The ghost of my brother long gone loomed large in our conversations, twisting every word with guilt and regret. It felt like we were living in a shadow. Every family meal turned into a minefield, every conversation an opportunity for hurt. I started to feel like a ghost myself, drifting through a life that no longer felt real. That day, the weight of it all crashed down on me. I could feel panic clawing at my throat. I knew I had to escape. As I stood there, I made a choice. Vanishing felt like my only option. I could slip away unnoticed. No more misunderstandings. No more pain. I grabbed my bag, my heart pounding with disbelief at my own boldness. The chaos behind me faded as I stepped into the cool night air. The stars above twinkled brightly, as if mocking my decision to leave everything behind. But deep down, a flicker of hope ignited. Maybe they would miss me. Maybe it would make them realize how much I mattered, how their misunderstandings had torn us apart. I took a deep breath, feeling the crisp air fill my lungs, and allowed myself a moment of clarity. This was my choice, my chance to find myself away from the hurt. Each step I took felt both exhilarating and terrifying, thundering in my chest with questions that remained unanswered. Would they even care? A chilling thought crept in. What if they didn't notice my absence at all? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The streets were alive beneath my feet as I wandered into the unknown, the cool night air wrapping around me like a comforting cloak. Each step was an act of defiance, a move away from the suffocating atmosphere that had become my home. As I walked, I replayed every fragment of the fractured conversations that had driven me to this moment, each word a knife twisting in my heart. I didn't have a destination, just a need to distance myself from the pain. An ache echoed in my chest. It was a profound loneliness that stole my breath. Yet, amidst the turmoil, I felt a strange sense of liberation. I was finally in control, free from the burdens that had shackled me to a past riddled with misunderstanding and resentment. With no clear plans, I meandered into a small, dimly lit cafe, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat. The warmth rushed over me as I stepped inside, a stark contrast to the chill outside. I slid into a booth in the corner, the leather cracked and worn, but it felt like a sanctuary away from the chaos of my family. As I sat there, cradling a steaming cup of coffee, sipping it slowly, as if savoring each drop of warmth, I noticed a couple at the table next to me. They were laughing and sharing stories, their eyes sparkling with love and understanding, and I felt a pang of longing wash over me. I missed that, the easy connection, the laughter that didn't come with a price. The barista, a girl with vibrant purple hair and an easy smile, glanced over and caught my eye. She leaned against the counter, her presence a beacon of warmth. "You look like you've had a rough day," she said, her tone light but sincere. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of my reality pressing down on me. But something about her genuine concern urged me to respond. "You could say that. Just trying to figure things out." She nodded, as if she understood. "Sometimes you just need a little space to breathe. You want to talk about it?" Her offer lingered in the air, a lifeline thrown into the stormy waters of my thoughts. "Maybe another time," I replied, grateful for her kindness but unwilling to share the depths of my turmoil. She simply smiled, the warmth radiating from her a small reminder that compassion still existed. As I sat there, I could see glimmers of hope through the cracks in my despair. I thought of my sister standing at the edge of my memory, her innocent confusion echoing in the silence. Maybe I wasn't entirely lost. There were still threads connecting me back to them, fragile but worth preserving. Finishing my coffee, I felt the ghost of my brother linger in the air, a heavy reminder of the guilt wrapped around my heart. It wasn't fair to disappear. It would only deepen the wounds so many were already carrying. My feet wanted to carry me home, to face the storm rather than evade it, but the grip of fear held me steady in my booth. Minutes felt like hours, my mind racing with conflicting thoughts, until finally the barista approached me again. "Are you okay?" she asked, her eyes sincere and searching. I felt vulnerable under her gaze. You know, people can surprise you sometimes. They might not react as you expect. Before I could respond, a loud crash at the entrance turned our attention. A man burst through the door, his eyes frantic. "I'm looking for someone. Has anyone seen a girl? She's about this tall, dark hair." My heart dropped. Couldn't be. My breath hitched as I recognized the description. My sister. What was happening? Did she come looking for me? Or had they noticed I was gone? Every face in the cafe turned to the man, a flicker of curiosity igniting amongst the patrons. Time stood still as I desperately searched, his eyes filled with panic, with desperation. But then, there it was, a moment of clarity. I couldn't just sit idly, paralyzed by fear. I had to decide: dive into the chaos ID, try to escape, or continue down this lonely path. My heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Was my absence truly felt? Would they regret the misunderstandings that had led us here? The choice loomed before me as fear and hope collided within. I stood. And just as I took a step forward, the barista called out, "Wait! Are you going to help him?" Before I could stop myself, I turned to face her, my voice shaky yet resolute. "Yes, I need to." With every ounce of courage I could muster, I approached the frantic man. In that moment I chose to confront the storm, to step back into the tumultuous world I had tried to escape, knowing that clarity and healing could only come from confronting the pain. What awaited me on the other side remained uncertain. But one thing was clear: I would no longer vanish into the shadows. The exit door swung wildly as I approached the man, the cold air rushing in behind him as if it carried with it the weight of my decisions. My stride faltered, my mind spinning through a kaleidoscope of thoughts. I could feel the eyes of the cafe patrons drilling into my back, their whispers filling the space with a palpable tension. What if I was wrong? What if my sister was safe at home, and I was just spiraling deeper into an already murky situation? "Do you know her?" The man's voice trembled as he shifted his gaze from the entire room back to me. His desperation was palpable, and it tangled itself with the knot of fear tight in my chest. I swallowed hard, casting my eyes around the room for confirmation. "I think so. I'm looking for my sister too," I managed to stutter, feeling a flicker of hope spark inside me. "Can you tell me what happened?" His expression shifted from frantic to relieved in a heartbeat. "She left home in a hurry. I thought maybe she came here. She's been upset." He ran a hand through his messy hair, eyes crinkling with worry. "I didn't want her to feel alone. I just wanted to find her before what?" The word slipped out before I could catch it, the unyielding fear creeping back into my voice. "Before something happened?" I took a step closer, reaching out instinctively as if the motion itself could dispel the darkness swirling around us. "Before she thinks she needs to do something drastic," he murmured, the edge of his voice betraying a deep fear. The weight of his words thundered through me, slamming home the reality of what we were both facing. Suddenly, the air felt heavy, pressing against my chest, and I struggled to breathe as a memory flitted through my mind: my sister sitting on the floor of her room, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs, the world outside her window dimmed by the shadows of our family's unresolved issues. I clenched my fists, feeling the heat of determination pulse through me. "We can't let her feel alone," I said firmly, the conviction rising within me. "We'll find her together." The man's eyes filled with a glimmer of hope, and I felt the threads of our shared desperation weave an unexpected bond between us. "You really think we can?" "Yeah. We just need to." The words caught in my throat as I remembered the muted whispers among my family about her struggles, the countless moments we chose to walk around the truth rather than face it. I hadn't been there for her then, frozen by my own fears. But I could do something now. "It starts by letting people in," I said, resolute. "We can't keep letting her feel like she's in this alone." "Aren't you scared?" he asked, his voice wavering. "Going back into chaos? What if she doesn't want to be found?" "I'm terrified," I admitted honestly, the truth peeling back layers of my previous bravado. "But I'm more terrified of what could happen if we don't try." He nodded solemnly, determination etching itself across his features. "Then let's go." We hurried out of the cafe, the cool night air filling my lungs as we sped down the street, urgency fueling our steps. Each step felt like a promise to my sister to seek her out, to bridge the divide that had grown between us. We ran in silence, each of us lost in our thoughts, but an understanding had formed, the kind that tucked itself into the darkest corners of loneliness. To the corner, a flickering streetlight cast an erratic glow, but it illuminated the path ahead, each shadow a reminder of the obstacles we'd face. Suddenly I stopped, catching a glimpse of a girl sitting on a bench nearby, her silhouette hunched and small. My heart raced as recognition washed over me. It was her, my sister. "Wait!" I burst out, my voice breaking the spell of silence that enveloped us. The man followed my gaze, relief flooding his features as our shared desperation morphed into a single, unifying goal. We approached hesitantly, my heart pounding against my ribcage as I took in the sight of her. She looked fragile, a thin layer of tears glistened in her eyes, but she hadn't noticed us yet. "She's here," I whispered almost to myself. Just as we were about to call out to her, the unmistakable sound of distant sirens began to fill the air, growing closer by the second. I exchanged a glance with the frantic man, fear intertwining with urgency. What were we doing? What if we were too late? "Go!" the man shouted, propelling me forward. "Get her. I'll take care of the cops." The reality of the situation crashed over me, and I broke into a sprint, heart racing as I called out her name. "Sarah." Each syllable felt like a lifeline thrown into the chaotic waters of uncertainty. But as her head jerked up, our eyes met with an expression I wasn't prepared for, one that held an entire world of pain, regret, and the kind of deep-seated alienation that sliced through my chest. I saw her mouth form the words, "What are you doing here?" The sirens roared louder. The moment stretched, tension crackling in the air as hope clashed violently with fear. It was now or never. Would she run again? Would she let me in or push me away? What lay just beyond this pivotal moment could shift everything we had tried to avoid, and I could feel the weight of it heavier than ever. Time slid into a stillness, and all I could hear was the haunting whisper of hope laced with the bitter taste of apprehension. What awaited us in this confrontation I couldn't know, but I was determined to find out. The street's dim light flickered against her fragile figure, casting long shadows that stretched like the distance between us. My heart raced. I took a breath to steady myself, realizing the magnitude of what this moment held. "Sarah, please," I said, my voice strained, teetering on the edge of desperation. "We need to talk." She flinched at the sound of my voice, the way her body seemed to curl inwards like a flower shutting away the light. I watched as the defiance in her posture deflated, replaced by something softer, almost like vulnerability. But then clouds of doubt swept back in, and she shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Go away, just leave me alone." The anguish in her voice cut deep, igniting a flame of frustration and sorrow within me. "No, I can't do that." "You're not alone, Sarah," I urged, desperation carving lines into my features. "Whatever's going on, whatever you're feeling, you don't have to face this by yourself." In that moment, I caught sight of the frantic man racing towards us, a wild look on his face, urgency oozing from every pore. Just behind him, the red and blue lights danced against the walls of the buildings, a menacing reminder of our tangled reality. "Excuse me," he yelled, and it pained me to see his hopes crash against her hardened exterior. Your brother's right. We need to get you out of here. Her eyes darted from his pleading face to mine and then to the oncoming sirens, each rapid flicker revealing her internal struggle whether to remain rooted in her despair or allow us to pull her back from the edge. Why do you care? She finally spat out, her voice trembling. You both barely know me. It's easy to say when you're not the one drowning. The rawness of her pain twisted my heart. She was lashing out, but each word struck with a hint of truth I couldn't brush aside. Because I know what it's like to feel lost, Sarah, I said, my own voice thickening with emotion. I felt like I was fading away too. But you're my sister. I love you. And I can't let you go without fighting for you. The shifting shadows lingered, intertwining with the dread of my own unacknowledged struggles. She stared at me, her breath hitching, and for a sliver of a moment, I thought maybe I caught a glimpse of hope reflected in her eyes. But as quickly as it had come, that spark flickered, wavered and dimmed. No one understands. She shouted, her cheeks flushing with a mix of anger and anguish. You think I want to be fixed? You think just showing up changes everything? I couldn't answer. The sirens grew louder, their banshee wails slicing through the frail cocoon of our moment, tightening the knot of panic in my stomach. Instead, I took a step closer, letting the thin distance between us shrink, and with it, the enormity of her pain and all the times I had failed to look at her clearly. Please just give me a chance to understand, I whispered, pleading with everything I had. We can face this together. But she turned away, hands clutching the bench as if it were a lifeline. There's nothing to understand. I'm tired of pretending everything is okay. I want nothing to do with this family anymore. Those words washed over me, leaving a cold wash of reality. My heart plummeted, the fear of losing her mingling with the fear of what she could do next. The cop car screeched to a halt, headlights illuminating her face just enough to see the turmoil, but not enough to resolve it. Everything inside me screamed for clarity, but the depth of her pain was suffocating. Sarah, I called out again, wresting the words from the depths of my soul. If you leave, no, if you walk away, you won't have to face this alone, but it will only get harder. I can't protect you from the world, but I can try to protect you from the darkness that's pulling you in. She turned at my words, fury swelling in her eyes, but even amidst the chaos, I thought I caught glimpses of cracks forming in her stoic armor. I took her silence as a sign to press on. I know we've hurt each other, but running will only bring more pain later. Let us help you. Please. You want to help, she said bitterly, shaking her head. Where were you all those times I needed you? Before I could respond, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind me. The police had arrived, and the door separating my sister from Choice was closing fast. Panic surged through me as I stepped in front of her instinctively, my body blocking the path toward the authorities. No, just give us a moment, I shouted, each word weighted with urgency. The officers halted, confusion evident on their faces. I locked eyes with Sarah once more, her expression unreadable amidst the emotional storm. In that suspended time caught between her struggle and the threat of being taken away, I realized my desperation might only deepen her resentment, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. What if this was my last chance to reach her? I can't lose you again, I finally said, my voice softer now, choking on the weight of my vulnerability. I need you to trust me. I'm not perfect and I won't have all the answers, but I swear every part of me wants to be there for you. Just don't shut me out. Tears streamed down her face as the tension crackled like static electricity. The world around us blurred, but I could hardly breathe, hoping against hope that those words would strike home. As she took a step back, hesitating, the man who had joined us moved in closer, sensing the fragile moment. Please, we're here for you, Sarah. No judgments. Just love. Let's find a way through this together. The sirens faded into the background, swallowed whole by the weight of our conflict, but just as I thought she might crack and come forward, a sudden loud bang reverberated through the air. At first, I thought it was a door slamming shut, but as she flinched, a revelation struck. Was that the sound of a gunshot? My heart dropped, panic sweeping through me. Sarah's eyes widened, fear flashing across her face as she froze, and in that same instant, I felt everything shift. The confrontation escalated, and outside our small bubble of time, lives were being changed irrevocably. My last desperate plea hung in the air, unanswered, as the ripple of shock and confusion spread amidst the chaos. The future had taken a sharp, unexpected turn, and as everything spiraled, The lingering fear remained. What would we lose next? The gunshot echoed, ricocheting through the night and shattering the fragile moment we had built between us. It sent a wave of adrenaline coursing through me, propelling my instincts into overdrive. I felt Sarah's body stiffen beside me, her breath caught in her throat like a fraying thread, teetering on the edge of unraveling completely. Get down! One of the officers shouted, immediately taking action. The situation had escalated into chaos, and I sensed an urgency I had never experienced before. The world outside my sister's turmoil now blended with another kind of fear. This was no longer just about her pain. This was a battle for our very safety. Stay here. Move to the side. Another officer yelled, and in a whirlwind of authority, they rushed toward the source of the sound. I turned back to Sarah just in time to see panic etching deeper lines into her face, her walls beginning to shatter under the pressure of sirens and shadows. We need to go. Now, I yelled, instinctively grabbing her hand, urging her away from the bench. Please, please, just trust me. But she hesitated, fear holding her in place like an anchor. The reality of the gunshot hung in the air, creating a thick fog of dread. What if it's too late? She whispered, vulnerability cracking through the scream of her earlier defiance. What if I can't come back? No, don't say that. I clutched her tighter, the warmth of her hand grounding me amidst the madness. This isn't about running anymore, it's about surviving. We were never meant to give up on each other. The shadows danced wildly along the pavement as the officers continued their frantic movements, and the atmosphere shimmered with uncertainty. With the chaos outside threatening to consume us, I risked a moment to look into Sarah's eyes, searching for some trace of the sister I once knew. The laughter, the whispers of shared secrets. I know you're hurting, I pleaded. But we can't let the darkness pull you under. Fight. Fight with me. In an instant I could see the internal battle rage within her. I wanted nothing more than to lift the weight off her shoulders, to shout that it was all going to be okay, but the truth was nothing was okay. The weight of our family's predicament shackled us both, and I felt a flicker of shame, mixed with the responsibility I bore. Maybe I hadn't always been present, maybe I had failed her when it mattered most. The guilt wrapped around my chest like a vice, squeezing, forcing me to question if I was truly worthy of her trust. Then, as if a window opened just slightly in the darkened sky, the first shred of hope emerged. Look at me, I urged, catching the glint of recognition in her eyes. I'm not giving up. And neither can you. You have to fight for yourself, for us. Just a little bit longer. Sarah's gaze roamed past my shoulder, and I followed it, my heart racing as I saw one of the officers, a woman in her 30s with kind but determined eyes, gesturing toward us. She seemed to sense the gravity of our situation, the frail connection holding my sister back from the brink. It's okay, sister, the officer's voice broke through the chaos, soothing and steady. You're safe now. We'll protect you. She stepped closer, gently reaching out, creating a bridge of safety between a world that felt violently expansive and our desperate cocoon of fear. Please, the officer said, her voice unwavering as she knelt down to Sarah's level. You don't have to face this alone anymore. It's time to come home. Start fresh. Sarah's expression shifted, uncertainty mingling with the faint outline of relief. I couldn't tell if it was the officer's kindness that sparked a flicker of hope or if it was my relentless conviction, but something stirred within her. But then, just as I held my breath, coaxing her toward the warmth of safety, another thunderous noise erupted beyond the scattered light of the street. A figure emerged from the shadows, a panicked silhouette, moving swiftly, and before I could fully process it, another gunshot rang out. Sarah's hand slipped from mine, and time fractured as I reached for her, my heart pounding. No! Shouted, lunging forward, but chaos engulfed the scene as civilians dropped to the ground, fear radiating in waves around us. The officer went pale as she rushed in front of Sarah, shielding her from whatever was unfolding. I felt the chill of impending doom wash over me as I struggled to break through the chaos, my thoughts swirling and blurring, spiraling into despair. With a dreamlike quality, I watched as Sarah's terrified eyes mirrored my own, and in that moment, swathes of uncertainty bound us together. The world around us spun faster, and yet, I felt time freeze as if we were caught in a moment where everything hung in question. The seconds stretched, suffocating, and the answer to our family's tangled web of misunderstandings felt like it was dangling just beyond our grasp. I could almost hear the tightly coiled strands snapping, threatening to unravel everything we had built as I clung desperately to the memory of my sister, me constant, my anchor. Then the unthinkable Hapanita voice shouted in the dark, and in it, I heard my worst fear realized. You'll never escape us. The weight of that declaration thundered through me, and as I blinked against the chaos, the specter of loss loomed closer. There would be no clear-cut path back from this upheaval. This moment felt like a culmination of every unsaid word, every missed chance echoing against the chaos of life that surrounded us, and in the face of it, with Sarah's wide-eyed fear clinging onto hope, I realized that this wasn't just her battle anymore. This was ours. We were still standing amid the storm. Yet the question lingered, would we endure the heartache together? Or would this be the fracture that split us apart forever? The air hummed with tension, each breath I took mingling with the acrid scent of gunpowder, and the underlying pall of despair. My heart thrummed in my chest like a frantic bird trying to escape a cage, desperate to take flight but finding itself ensnared in bonds too strong to break. I had spent so long pretending I could shield Sarah from this world. Yet here I was powerless, clutching at frayed threads of hope while the dark undercurrents pulled her farther away. And those harrowing moments, chaos erupted around me, turning the once familiar comfort of the park into a battleground strewn with fear and uncertainty. The officers around us moved like shadows, their authoritative voices cutting through the turmoil, but I felt invisible, adrift amidst a swell of anxiety that threatened to consume everything I held dear. Sarah, I cried, my voice cracking, the sound abrasive against the tumult that seemed to grow around us. I felt myself spiraling, reaching for her, trying to anchor her to the present. Please just hold on to me. Her wide eyes glistened with unshed tears, the haunting reflection of my own fear mirrored back to me. What if I'm the cause of all this? She choked out, voice trembling like a thin thread about to snap. What if they find us? It's my fault. Everything is my fault. No, it's not, I insisted, shaking my head vehemently. This isn't about you. We didn't choose this, none of us did. We have to stick together. Find the light in this darkness. But just as I reached for the light flickering in her gaze, that maddening reality crashed upon us like a tidal wave. The officer who had protected Sarah now faced the threat unraveling just beyond the canvas of chaos, determination etched in her every move. But her eyes betrayed the worry they concealed beneath that brave facade. If only I could pull her back, if only I could erase the stains of our past that hung heavy between us and cut the ties of guilt that bound her spirit. But the world wouldn't allow me that reprieve, and as I looked to the shadows once more, the startling words echoed in my mind. You'll never escape us. The thought coiled around my heart, tightening its grip, dragging me deeper into a whirlpool of dread. What did they want? And why were they after Sarah? Suddenly, a flicker of clarity struck me. Family misunderstandings. The accusations hurled when times grew tough. I had distanced myself, letting unspoken feelings fester like open wounds. Sarah was not the only one affected by our family's turmoil. I was tethered to this cycle too. Through the haze, warmth surged in my chest, a fleeting realization of a deeper bond forged in trials. The truth was, Sarah was more than my sister. She was a piece of my heart. I had watched her grow from a shy girl into a vibrant woman, her gentleness still surfacing among the cracks. Beneath this chaos there was still essence, a reason to stand strong. But as the adrenaline coursed through me, something stirred in Sarah. I could see her shifting, her fingers trembling, but behind that fear, there lingered a fire long suppressed. I reached out again, cupping her face with both hands, desperate to ignite that flame. You are not alone. Just breathe with me. We'll fight through this together. For a fleeting moment, I saw that flicker of hope in her eyes, a delicate thread of resilience. Then just like that, the thunderclap of another gunshot echoed, and with it reality crashed painfully back. My heart quickened, panic spreading like wildfire as I turned toward the area where the sound originated. The officers, those brave souls who had come to our rescue, were now darting behind cars for cover. Their faces reflected a mix of fear and steady resolve, inching forward into the unknown. And then the officer who had stood between the chaos and us suddenly moved to the edge, urging people behind her. My heart sank as I watched her yelling into her radio, her voice loud and urgent, we need backup. It's an ambush. In that moment the urgency of the situation swelled, and I knew we had to act. I gripped Sarah's hand tighter, unwavering in my insistence. We have to move now. We need to find shelter before they close in. Sarah hesitated, glancing back toward the chaos, an unshed tear carving a path down her cheek. What if we get caught? What if I can't escape this no matter what? I leaned closer, desperation threading through my voice. You will escape this, Sarah. You have to believe it. We are going to find a way. We just have to be brave for each other. As we took our first hesitant steps forward, the world around us turned into a blur of shadows and light. But just when I thought we could find our way back to safety, an overwhelming voice came crashing down again. Magnifying the chaos, the figure from before, dark and foreboding, emerged once more. A storm cloud against the clarity of our urgency. Did you really think you could run? It boomed, lips curling into a terrifying smirk, eyes feverish with madness. You can never outrun the truth. With that, an icy realization settled in my stomach, the implications of those words seeping deep into my bones. No longer was this just about survival. It was the unveiling of buried truths that could shatter everything. My heart lurched. The weight of family misunderstandings, the years I thought I had left behind, they had caught up with us. And as that ghostly voice echoed through the chaos, it became painfully clear. The battle for our lives was just beginning. The chase was frantic, the ground shifting beneath us with every labored breath. My heart pounded not only from fear but from the realization that we were on a precipice. One wrong step could send us spiraling into the abyss. Sarah's hand felt fragile in mine, her pulse rapid and erratic, echoing the chaos that enveloped us. I thought about what might be waiting at the end of this mad dash, about the truth lurking in the shadows we fled at as we ducked behind a pickup truck. The din of the world receded temporarily, giving way to a suffocating silence that weighed heavily upon us. Lines of sweat mingled with the tears that poured from Sarah's eyes, and I longed to wipe them away but felt frozen, paralyzed by the enormity of our circumstances. Why are they after us? Sarah whispered, her voice barely more than a frightened breath. What have I done? In that moment, an overwhelming urge rose within me, a protective roar that wanted to shield her from the harsh truths we faced. Yet there was no denying that shadows from our pasts were closing in. I turned to her, gripping her shoulders, bending my knees to meet her troubled eyes. I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. Nothing is as it seems. Remember the stories Dad told? The ones that made us laugh? The ones that felt like they couldn't touch us? Sarah nodded slowly, fear etched deep on her features, but I saw a flicker of something else, curiosity mingled with a desperate longing for the innocence we once had. The stories? You mean the family legends? The myths he spun to make us feel special? Yes. Just like those tales, we're deeper in this than we realize. There's so much we don't understand, I urged, trying to break the thick veil of her fear. But if we stick together, we can confront whatever it is. I promise you we're stronger than this. Before she could respond, a deafening explosion echoed nearby, force shaking the ground beneath us. Instinctively, I pulled Sarah down, shielded her with my body, but it was too late. The shockwave had hit. Adrenaline surged through me as I risked a glance at what lay ahead. Chaos erupted again. Cries of anguish mixed with shouts from the officers as they clambered through the debris. Fear danced through the filaments of my being, twisting my stomach into knots. We have to move, I mumbled, my voice hoarse with urgency. But before we could act, a figure emerged from the smoke-screen, an officer, limping, clutching his side. Help! He gasped, collapsing on the ground before us. They're coming. I hesitated, the instinct to protect my sister warring with the instinct to save a fellow human being. Sarah, stay here, I ordered as I rushed to the officer's side, my heart pounding in my chest. The sight of him wounded ignited an ember of hope within me, the notion that anyone left standing amidst this madness could still fight for survival. You're going to be okay, I assured as I knelt beside him, my hands trembling over the blood that soaked through his shirt. What happened? They're hunting you, both of you, he coughed out, pain etched across his features. They think you hold the key. The key? Those two words echoed through my mind like a haunting refrain, sending shivers down my spine. The key to what? I pressed, looking deep into his eyes, pleading for answers, but they were clouded with impending darkness. Your father, the family secrets, everything is entwined. They want to erase what he knew, he gasped, his breath shallow, eyes fluttering as if he might slip away. You must find the truth before they do. Before I could rebut, a distant sound pierced through the ruins, a creeping silence that overpowered the chaos. Sarah's gaze caught mine, fear transforming into resolve. We can't stay, she urged, grabbing my arm. They'll come for us next. We can't let them find us here. I nodded, forced my disbelief down. Whatever buried truths awaited us, survival was the first step. Just as we turned to run, the silhouette of a dark figure appeared beyond the wreckage. My blood ran cold. That smirk one I thought I'd seen for the last time was etched into my memory. Did you really think you could escape? The voice was low, dripping with menace. You belong to us. A new wave of panic consumed me as I doubled back to Sarah. We have to go. Now. But before we could take another step, a sound rang out, a chilling laughter known only to the familiar shadows of the past. What have you done, Sarah? The dark figure taunted, fingers twitching like a puppet on strings. You've only just begun to unravel what's coming. And trust me, the truth hurts. Time stood still as dread coiled tighter around my heart. The chaos might have seemed distant, but I felt the walls closing in, crushing us in a vice grip of family secrets and fear. The thought of my sister being pulled into the shadowy world that awaited us was unbearable. But as the hands of fate twisted, I realized I couldn't let the darkness win. And so, with a fierce determination that was equal parts love and fear, I squeezed Sarah's hand, bracing myself for whatever lay ahead. What truth awaited us? What darkness sought to consume her? I didn't know, but there was no turning back now. The truth was a two-edged sword, sharp and haunting. And if we were to find it, we would have to leap into the depths of the unknown together. The alley was narrow, lined with crumbling brick and strewn with debris that whispered of lives once lived in harmony. Each step we took echoed with a meaning far more profound than the simple sound of our feet against the cracked pavement. Sarah's grip on my arm tightened, her breaths quickening as we pushed deeper into the unknown. Where are we going? She panted, glancing over her shoulder, panic etching deeper lines across her delicate features. Just trust me, I insisted, although I could feel the weight of doubt creeping in. Trust felt like a fragile promise, and our reality was a shifting maze of treachery and fear. Clarity had slipped from our grasp. The path forward was veiled in shadows. Suddenly, a flicker of neon light caught my eye, a flickering sign from an old diner, its once vibrant colors dulled by years of neglect. I tugged Sarah toward it, hoping against hope that it would provide at least a brief sanctuary from the encroaching nightmare. Inside, we stumbled into a world that felt frozen in time. Red vinyl booths sat untouched, a layer of dust coated every surface. An old jukebox in the corner quietly hummed a familiar tune. It was a strange comfort amid chaos, the kind of melancholic shelter Pa had taken us to during simpler times. Sarah sank into a booth, her shoulders trembling. Why do they think we hold the key? We don't know anything, not really. Maybe we need to find out what they think we know, I replied, my mind racing with the limited pieces of a puzzle I had yet to see. But as much as I wanted to soothe her fears with empty reassurances, I could feel the hollowness of my own heart echoing through the empty diner. The ache for the family we had lost, for the innocence we had both taken for granted, surged within me like a tidal wave. We can search through Dad's things when we get back. He must have left something that makes this all connect. What if we don't survive to find it? She whispered, the bravery in her eyes dimming. At that moment, the door creaked softly, and a figure stepped in, silhouetted against the fading light. My heart dropped, my head spinning as I readied myself for trouble. But the visitor, an elderly man with silver hair and kind eyes, seemed oblivious to the storm around us. He tipped his hat, a smile gracing his weathered face. You two look like you've seen a ghost. We exchanged wary glances, still backing toward the shadows, unsure of whether to trust this stranger. But he approached with an air of familiarity, warmth radiating from him, igniting a tiny flicker of hope inside me. Can I help you? He asked, his voice soothing. I stammered, caught off guard. We need somewhere to hide. Hiding is hard in this world, he said, pulling out a chair and gesturing for us to sit. Sometimes you've got to confront what haunts you instead of running away. Sarah's shoulders slackened slightly, as though the weight of our fears lifted just a bit. You don't know what's chasing us. Maybe not, he replied, leaning back in the rickety chair. But I've had my share of shadows, and I've learned that within the chaos, there are always small moments of kindness. They're what help you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Though I was skeptical, his gentle wisdom resonated with my fractured heart. How do you know that? I asked, needing reassurance. He smiled, revealing laughter lines etched deep into his skin. I've lived long enough to watch the world turn dark and light again. And while the shadows may come for us, it's the light we bring to one another that truly matters. And that moment, as his sincerity wafted over us, I sensed something positive shifting inside Sarah. Her fear seemed to hold still, even if just for a heartbeat, but just as I thought we had found a moment of peace, the door swung open with force, revealing the black silhouette of the dark figure from before. My breath hitched in my throat, dread consuming the brief flicker of hope we had found. I hope you're not thinking of staying here, the figure hissed, eyes glinting with malice. Hiding won't save you. You have something that belongs to us. Waves of panic surged and roared around us, drowning out the moment of connection I had almost believed in. I felt myself tense as I scanned the room for an escape. But when I looked at Sarah, her gaze was locked onto the stranger. Do you know him? She asked, a mixture of fear and suspicion brewing within her voice. The old man looked from her to the figure, then back to us, a shadow flickering in the depths of his eyes. I have my own past buried deep. Some secrets should remain hidden, he murmured, voice heavy with an unspoken truth. What are you not telling us? I demanded, barely holding back desperation. But as I pressed, an avalanche of uncertainty cascaded around you. Not let him ensnare you, the old man warned. The truth can hurt, but knowledge offers a refuge. The figure moved closer, a glimmer of recognition sparking in his predatory gaze. So you've decided to play games? Let's see how this unfolds, shall we? I clutched Sarah's hand tightly, hearts in flux, the churning tide of uncertainty masking the truth we had initiated in our desperate flight. Was there betrayal lurking closer than we dared acknowledge? Was there darkness even within the flicker of kindness we thought we had found? As the piano of fate began playing its somber melody, a chilling thought gripped me. The truth we desperately sought might be closer than we'd ever imagined. The game had only just begun, and the stakes had never been higher. The diner fell silent, a heavy tension replacing the nostalgic hum of the jukebox. Every word exchanged felt like a strand in a spider's web, catching us in a trap woven from secrets and uncertainty. My heart hammered against my ribcage, and I could hear Sarah's shallow breaths matching the rhythm of my anxiety. The dark figure took another step forward, and I instinctively moved to shield Sarah with my body, to protect her from the ominous presence that felt too close to the remnants of our past. What do you want from us? I pressed, my voice hoarse but laced with defiance. He smirked, a cruel twist on his lips. You know already, don't you? It's not about what I want. It's about what you have, what you carry deep inside. His gaze bore into mine, probing for a weakness, a crack in the armor of my resolve. But down in my core, I felt the faintest whisper of the truth. We weren't just carrying fear, we were carrying hope. That flicker ignited a fire within me. We won't let you manipulate us, I said, drawing strength from what little courage I had left. Bravery, how quaint, he chuckled, the sound slicing through the air like a knife. He motioned to the old man seated calmly at the table, as if sensing the connection between them that had yet to fully unfold. And yet, it is a solitary flame against a gathering storm. I advise you to take my words to heart, child. This man knows more than he reveals. Reluctantly, I glanced at the old man, who wore an expression mingled with sadness and understanding. What does he mean? I asked, my voice laced with desperation. What do you know? He sighed deeply, his eyes reflecting a lifetime of heartache. Sometimes the burdens we choose to carry can weigh heavier than the truths we fear unraveling. But listen closely, he leaned forward slightly. People like us, we've accumulated scars from secrets. It is the pain of choices, of misunderstood intentions that threads through us like a silent scream. The darkness in the room seemed to pulse, the shadows crawling closer as my heart raced. Was he trying to tell me that my family was tangled in mistakes I didn't even know about? You mean the family? I murmured, trembling with the weight of his words. What happened? But the sinister figure interjected, his amusement hollow but potent. Look at you both, chasing echoes of the past. Very poetic indeed. His voice dripped with mocking affection. But do you realize that the path you tread is soaked with betrayal? The kind that turns blood to bitter memories? A ripple of disbelief slashed through the room. Betrayal? My family had withstood storms, been sewn together with love even through the tempest of misunderstanding. Stop it, Sarah cried suddenly, defiance shining brightly through her fear. You don't get to play with us like puppets. Whatever happened doesn't mean we have to succumb to your darkness. The figure's expression darkened, his mocking laughter sharpening into something more sinister. Without warning, he turned toward the door, blocking our escape. Little girl, it's not up to me. It's up to you whether you will see out the truth or hide in the shadows. A chilling silence fell again, and it stunned the beat of my heart. The questions hung in the air like unspoken words, clouding the atmosphere with a thick fog of dread. I swallowed hard, grappling for clarity amid the chaos swirling within. What truth? The old man, who had seemed a well of wisdom, suddenly seemed fragile, his resolve wrestling with darker memories. Sometimes within families, what you see isn't what you're given. You might learn hard truths about those you love, and that can feel like a dagger. But remember, understanding can also heal. I asked that what you're hiding? I asked, a terrible realization prickling at my conscience. You knew about what happened to my family, didn't you? The slick smile on the figure's face faltered as the old man's eyes filled with a haunting sadness. Some scars are meant to protect us, but you have to be prepared for what they unearth. Suddenly, the air changed. An uneasy tension flirted with the edges of time, the moment holding its breath. Felt the fragility of our connection, the bond between Sarah and me shaking under the weight of unsaid truths, that I realized we were on the precipice of revealing more than I had anticipated. Reaching for Sarah's hand, I fought against the tide of panic rising in my chest. We can't let him win. We need to dig deeper, find out whatever is buried. It could be the only way to save us. She nodded slowly, determination blossoming amidst her uncertainty. But just as I thought we were united in our resolve, the old man suddenly inhaled sharply, a cold fear shimmering in his eyes. You need to leave, he urged quietly, urgency threading through his voice. Now. What? Why? I asked, instinctively drawing Sarah closer to my side as if by mere proximity I could shield her from impending danger. Because you're in greater peril than you realize. He'll stop at nothing to get what he wants, the old man warned, his voice a low whisper. And when he does, the truth of your family will be the last dagger you'd ever want to pull from your back. The dark figure's silent threats loomed heavily, a cruel smile creeping to his lips as he positioned himself between us and freedom. Time is a slippery thing, and the truth waits for no one, including you two. What do you want? I yelled, frustration boiling over, desperate to understand the depth of this chaotic maze we had unwittingly stepped into. But before he could respond, the old man stood, eyes fierce, an eerie calm enveloping him. What we're hiding is not just your family's legacy. It's yours too, and it's time. A sudden crash sounded behind me, and I whipped around just as the entrance burst open, sending shards of glass scattering over the floor. Another figure entered, cloaked in dark, swirling shadows, this one bearing a semblance of familiarity that sent an icy chill racing through my veins. Look who finally decided to come home. The newcomer sneered, stepping forward. My breath caught in my throat as shock coursed through me. The face was one I hadn't seen in years, a reflection of everything I had ever feared. And bruised memories rushed in like a wave against an unprepared shore. Mom? I whispered, barely able to form the words. The darkness around us seemed to bend and twist as one truth collided with another, feelings I believed to be buried rising up stronger than the threads of connection we had. The weight of the evening suddenly became heavier, teetering off the ledge of uncertainty, as I stood between past and future, trapped in the chilling embrace of those we lost, and those we had yet to face. We were held in a suspended moment, the air around us crackling with memories left unspoken. A tapestry stitched together with threads of fear, longing, and pain. My heart raced as I stared at the woman who had been both a lighthouse and a storm. My mother's presence loomed large, casting a shadow over every decision I had ever made. Why are you here? I managed to whisper, my voice barely breaking the thick tension suffocating the diner. She stepped closer, her eyes glistening with the same haunting sorrow I had seen reflected in my sister's eyes. Because it's time to confront the past, she said softly, yet the steel in her voice cut through the chaos. You both need to hear the truth about what happened to your brother, about our family. It's the only way to break free. Sarah's gaze flickered between the two of us, confusion and hurt weaving tightly through her expression. What are you talking about? She asked, her voice trembling, the air between us heavy with uncertainty. You left us. Both of you. My mother's breath hitched. I know, and I'm so sorry. But it's not what you think. My leaving it was meant to protect you. The words hung in the air, laden with gravity. I wanted to recoil from the revelations that spun around us like a tempest, pushing and pulling at the very strands of our existence. Protect us? By running away? Yes, she insisted, desperation igniting her voice. You have to understand. The world we wanted to shield you from our family's dark history, it came creeping into our lives. Your father and I thought if we could just distance ourselves, stifle the truth, it wouldn't touch you. Touch us? It almost destroyed us. I countered angrily, each word a lash against the soft, vulnerable parts of my heart. I was so scared, terrified of losing you both to the cycle that claimed your brother, she confessed, her voice cracking as she stepped closer. You need to know that he knew he was burdened with our family's past, and it became too much for him. The truth swirled around us, and as I glanced at Sarah, I could see the pain reflected in her eyes, the growing need for clarity and connection. We were both lost in the shadows, burdened by the haunting specter of our brother's memory, shackled to the past. But you left us. You didn't fight. You let it swallow you whole. Sarah's voice cut through the tension like a desperate plea that I had to. My mother replied, tears brimming in her eyes. The darkness chased me. I thought it would spare you. Did it ever occur to you that facing it together might have been a better route? I snapped, rage and grief tangling in my throat. Instead of running away, you could have fought for us. The silence that followed was thick with unaddressed pain, an aching void that we had carried for years, each of us trapped in our own desperate attempts to outrun despair. You are the key, my mother continued, her voice barely a whisper, the intensity in her eyes flickering to something deeper. The truth might be the only way to find all the pieces again. Tell us what we're holding on to, I demanded, the need for transparency pressing against my ribs like a physical weight. What is the truth? She took a shaky breath, her gaze flickering from me to Sarah and then back again, holding tightly to a whirlwind of memories that threatened to spill over. There were secrets, dark, twisted secrets. The death of your brother wasn't an accident. It was tangled in a web of betrayal, and pieces of that web might still linger. The world tilted beneath my feet, and I clenched my fists, shoving away the oncoming tide of memories. Our family had once been built on laughter, love, and togetherness, all of it now fractured by misunderstandings that we had let poison our bonds. Mom, I started, my voice trembling, you can't just drop that on us. Not now, not when we're feeling this vulnerable. He died trying to protect you, she whispered urgently, her eyes pleading for understanding. I should have backed him up. I should have seen I was so blinded by my own fears. Sarah, I turned towards her, desperation flaring as I continued, we have to see this through. If your leaving meant saving us from some unseen threat, I think it starts here. The darkness surrounding our past wasn't just a memory, it was a heavy shroud we draped around ourselves, a fear manifesting into something much larger than our father's demons, our own fears. As I looked at Sarah, a sense of clarity wrapped around my heart. We can't let the shadows win. We owe it to our brother and to ourselves to know. Your brother was a sweet boy, my mother said quietly, holding our gaze. He tried to protect you from the truth about us, about family. He felt he could shield you, but it consumed him instead. Sarah, we have to embrace this together. No more running. I squeezed her hand, reaching for the flickering ember of hope that seemed to tether us through this storm. I don't want to lose you again, she confessed, tears brimming in her eyes, the deep thrum of fear showing up in her voice. What if what waiting for us is too much? I leaned closer and wrapped my arms around her, pulling her in against me. We'll be stronger if we face it together. We owe it to ourselves and to him. With that, my mother drew closer, her haunted gaze promising resolution. You need to ask yourselves, are you ready to find your way back to the light? That's the only way we'll heal, I said firmly, the words igniting a new determination between us. And in that moment, the lingering shadows around us began to fade. The weight we carried made pressing pain felt lighter, the clarity of truth reaching out through the darkness. We were at the edge, ready to confront what could very well shatter everything we thought we knew, and yet it was within that shattering that we might find the strength to piece ourselves back together. As night finally fell into silence around us, the flicker of hope ignited, and with gripping hands we stepped forward into the unknown, hearts thrumming as we prepared to confront the wild, raw truth of our family together. In this moment of resolve, I turned to Sarah, our eyes locking in an understanding that stretched beyond words, and I whispered, whatever comes next, We will face it as one. Together we were ready to unearth our past, not just to find closure, but to finally honor our brother's legacy in pursuing the truth that lay buried beneath a towel of shadows all along. In that exquisite yet terrifying spark of determination, I knew we would find our way back to the light. And as we translated our grief into healing, I understood that our journey would be a weaving of our paths, not a solitary struggle against the darkness. This was it. This was the beginning of our true battle for ourselves, our family, and the light we desperately sought. It was hopeful. It was right. Because sometimes the only way to find your way home is to venture through the very storm sweeping you away. As I took a deep breath, the first step toward unveiling the truth flooded me with warmth. "Let's go," I said, turning toward the door with resolute purpose. We were ready to reclaim our story not just as sisters, but as a family made strong by the fierce love that still flickered against the darkness, waiting to be ignited into something beautiful. The end was just the beginning.